on YouTube. I'm just going to put us on the front door, and then we're good.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
All right, let's go. Hello, everybody. I am Lindsey Turrentine, editor-in-chief of CNET.com, and I am excited because today I am going to sit down for a chat with Jeff Joseph, my friend at the CTA, formerly the CEA, now the Consumer Technology Association. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Lindsay, I'm great. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you. And to you too. Jeff, just so you know, is the Senior Vice President of Communications and Strategic Relationships at the CTA. And Jeff, he knows everything about what's going on at CES. And I know that everybody on CNET is just like, they're like, forget about the holidays. I just want to make it through all the food so that I can find out what's going to happen at CES. So we are super excited to be here. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, please. I always love talking with you. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. First off, I just want to get this right out of the way. Where can people find out more about CES, Jeff? I know that you've got the best Twitter handle ever for CES, which is at CES.
Right.
And the website is cesweb.org. That's right?
That's correct. That's exactly right. The website's a great place to find all the information. If you're an attendee, if you're an exhibitor, or if you're just simply a consumer who wants to understand what's going on at the show, because our show is business only, so no consumers allowed. Sorry, you have to follow Lindsay and her CNET team to get the best and latest out of CS. But you can find all that through links on our webpage, and of course Twitter for real-time updates. We're going to do some live video casts. We're going to do some periscoping from the floor. So just follow those links, and you'll get a great CES experience.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so I was just spending some time on that website, looking things over, and we've been, of course, planning all of our coverage here at CNET, and we get really excited about launching our big CES package. What got me really excited right off the bat is the lineup of speakers here. We've got some really good ones. Tell us a little bit more about who you picked and how you picked them for the keynotes, because there's some really great people here.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and I think the keynotes, they really tell a story about how the show has changed. I mean, when you and I first met so many years ago, the show really was about hardware, and so you saw that in the keynoters. We had large consumer electronics companies from around the world, and as the show has changed, so has our keynote stage. As you know, consumer technology is now a part of everything we do. What are cars but really mobile consumer technology platforms? So we're excited to have Dr. Deese, the head of VW, as one of our keynoters. We have Mary Barra from GM as one of our keynoters to really talk about the future of cars and introduce, VW is expected to introduce a really cool new electric vehicle, which I think will be really fun and exciting. We have the president of Samsung, and we'll talk about, last year he sort of talked about the Internet of Things and Samsung's vision of how that's coming together. I'm excited to hear from him. We have Reed Hastings of Netflix. Now, content is such a big part, an important part of the consumer technology experience. So we're excited to hear where they're headed. And of course, we'll have YouTube, and of course our own Gary Shapiro, who's going to talk a bit about really, you know, when we think about technology, we think about all these things we love. We love our smartphones and our tablets, but there's so much more than that now, right? They're really changing the way we live, changing the way we work, really changing the world and making the world a better place. That's going to be one of the themes that Gary will address.
So this is great. Two automotive manufacturers speaking in the keynotes. I think that's huge and really interesting. And we're thinking a lot about how technology ends up in the cars that we drive, and how ultimately maybe it ends up in the cars we don't drive. Do you think that that there will be much self-driving technology chatted about at the show? I mean, we're hearing some stuff that we're excited about. Is that something that gets you excited?
It all gets me excited, but yeah, no, we've seen that the last few years, and I think we'll see the most recent advances. We project that we are maybe 5 or a few years away from really seeing many of these vehicles out on the road. Of course, there's an entire infrastructure that has to be built to support these vehicles, and we have to think about how we transition from driver-led cars to driverless cars. But I'm excited to go to CES and sort of see how far they've come, how far they've advanced. Automotive is really a huge story at CES again this year. We've got Faraday, who says they're going to compete with Tesla. With a really cool electric vehicle. They plan to unveil their car at CES. We have, I think, 9 of the top 10 auto manufacturers. We had a number of conference sessions. We have a keynote session panel with the Secretary of Transportation. So it really has become a place, again, not just for sort of the handheld devices and traditional consumer electronics devices, but really from health and fitness to automotive to drones, on and on and on. CES has really become the sort of the launch pad, the center stage of everything that can be considered consumer technology.
So in these keynotes, we're talking about automotive, but we've also got a Samsung keynote. Do you think that there are going to be some pretty big announcements happening during the keynotes? Is that something people should be paying attention to, watching the live stream?
Of course they should watch the live stream. Absolutely. I'll say 2 things. First, like, one of my biggest disappointments when I took this job is I thought we'd get like all this cool inside information up front. We get nothing. We don't get, so I can't sit here and say Samsung's going to do A, B, C, or D. But I do know that you asked earlier about sort of what we look for when we look for keynoters. And one of the things we ask is that they bring really cool innovations, that they make major announcements from the stage. It's from the CES keynote stage that we saw the introduction of the Xbox a number of years ago. We've seen introduction of tablets and whether it's faster and better processors to breakthrough products to even the beginning of the Internet of Things. Of course, most recently, these concept cars and electric vehicles and unmanned vehicles. So it really has become a really cool place to sort of see what everyone's going to want next holiday season or in the years to come.
So, you say that you don't find out things ahead of time. We actually do get some pre-briefs, and I will say there are going to be some exciting announcements, or at least things that I'm really excited about.
Right. Of course, They want to tell you, they don't want to tell me as much.
Yeah. Well, so, stay tuned to all appropriate channels to find out more. But we get really excited when we start to think, at CNET, we've been really, really focused on the smart home lately. We get really excited when we start to think about the ways in which the internet has really brought the home into a new era. And I'm actually going to be moderating a panel about the smart home with some really great folks. Is there what along the lines of the smart home? Like, are you finding that interest in smart home categories, that you're getting more and more of the show floor dedicated to things that might have surprised us in the past, like, I don't know, refrigerators, washing machines, big home electronics?
Yeah. So one of the things we do at the Consumer Technology Association, we're a major trade association that produces CES. We also lobby and promote the industry. And one of the things we do is take a look at a variety of product categories and forecast what those sales are going to be over the coming year, really what consumers want. And we'll announce those right at the show, right at CES. But one of the things, one of the early indications is that one of the fastest growing categories is that broad category of a smart home, of a connected home, of tech home, whether it's smart door locks, whether it's the thermostat, heating and cooling units, and whether it's white goods, appliances. It's really just growing at such a rapid pace. And one of the things we try to do at CES is identify those fast-growing categories, and we create what we call marketplaces. The CES is so big, we're going to have between 150, 176,000 people there, which is larger than most cities. And it's cool to wander around and sort of have the serendipity of finding things. But if you want to come and try to find a specific thing like smart homes, if you want to find that product category, we create marketplaces. So you can go there. We have a number of exhibitors, so you can really focus in on what you're particularly interested in. And the Tech Hub Marketplace is one of our fastest growing and largest marketplaces this year.
Where is the Tech Home Marketplace going to be located? Which hall for anybody who's actually going to be on the ground there? And I know that that's kind of the lucky few, but for those of you who are going to be there, you need to know where to go.
Right. It'll be in the Sands, which we're very excited about.
So now CES has gotten so huge, Jeff, that there are there's stuff going on in the Sands. There's Tech West generally, which is sort of away from the convention center. There's the convention center with North Hall, Central Hall, South Hall. There are meetings going on all across the city of Las Vegas. What is the best way for people to see as much as possible when they're on the ground in Vegas?
Walk fast.
Comfy shoes.
Comfy shoes. No. It is awesome. We do, as you noted, we have the 3 venues. We have new this year CES South, which houses what we call C Space, which is the home for the intersection of content, advertising, and marketing. That'll be at the Cosmo and the Aria hotels. But we recommend the bus system, the shuttle bus system. Again, we're moving hundreds of thousands, 150, 170,000 people around Las Vegas. It's so difficult to try to bring your car. There's no parking. So if you're driving from California, just leave your car at the hotel. Don't try to drive the convention center. But the shuttle buses work well. They run regularly throughout the day. They start early and run after closing, so you can get to and fro. We have a number of cab lines at the major locations too. We try to move those quickly. One insider tip, if you want, we talked about today, is that go to the front of the cab line and yell where you're going. And you may be able to double up and buddy up with some people, so you don't have to wait in as long a line.
Yeah, good tip. It's like homegrown Uber. Just try to make it yourself.
Was that a segue? Did you set that up on purpose?
No, but it's a really good one. What kinds of service industry trends do you expect at CES this year based on the exhibitors you're seeing?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important announcement is that we'll now have Uber and Lyft in Las Vegas, which is fantastic. We've been pushing for ride-sharing services in the city. We at CTA have been working hard to promote ride-sharing and make sure our attendees have that option. So when you get to McCarran Airport, you'll be able to call up the ride-sharing services. Now, because of the way Las Vegas works, there'll be special staging areas, but that'll come up in the app when you pull up the app and tell you where to go. So we're very, very excited to offer that transportation option to our attendees this year.
Yeah, that's really great news. And my general tip, after having been to CES for, I don't know, longer than I even care to share, leave yourself a buffer, because no matter what, it's going to take you longer to get where you think you're going than you think.
100%.
If you've ever been to Vegas before, take transit times that and triple them. Because it is so full of people, which is exciting.
It's exciting, and bring patience, because it will take long. It's just a matter of trying to move that many people around, and we've gotten much better. Again, there are more options, more places to go, but it will take time to get around.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about some more technology. What do you think is going to be the most unusual new category? And people ask me this all the time, and my head is so deep in the consumer technology, right, that I'll say, if I were to go for it, I would say probably you'll see some really interesting wearables in new formats, right? Not just bracelets or fobs, but integrated into your clothing or your shoes. There's going to be a lot of that automotive technology that we talked about. We're getting really excited about VR, and in fact, we're going to do a little bit of broadcasting in 360 VR format. But from your perspective, what's sort of the most unusual category that people should be paying attention to that maybe they're not paying attention to already?
Yeah, I'll say I'm not sure if it's unusual, but I'm with you on wearables, and I'll go a little further. One of the great trends of the show, you can come to the show and you can see all the big sort of finished projects and products and sort of see where they stand. But I also enjoy sort of looking at the components and trying to figure out where pieces are going to fit and what that tells for the future. So 3-4 years ago, as you might recall, we started to see sensors and smaller and smaller hard drives and SSDs coming onto the show floor. And the question was, okay, what does that mean? Now almost every device has some sort of sensor. everything is connected. As power has gone, as power capabilities have increased, as battery life or alternate sources of power have increased, we're seeing those sensors embedded in clothing, in shoes, in sporting equipment, in in cars, in hats, in gardening equipment, in white goods, and just on and on and on. So I'm really excited to see, okay, what's next? What else can we make smart? What else can we connect? We're going to have a really interesting panel on smart cities. And what is all this connectivity? What does the advent of the sharing economy mean for the future of the city? So I'm really excited to sort of think again, not just about the products themselves, but what does all this connectivity mean? What are all these sentient devices that we now have? What do they mean for the future of transportation, for the future of cities, for the future of urban planning, for the future of health and healthcare?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating topic. I was actually just coincidentally talking to the CTO of LA briefly this morning about this, and there are so many pressing questions when you think about things like, cameras, body-mounted cameras for the police, and emergency systems, which we've obviously been talking about a lot, and the way that all of the sensors in a city might integrate with, say, the ambulance system, a hospital system. It's just a really rich set of topics, and I'm excited to hear more about that because I think it's going to impact the way we all live our lives.
Well, think about building to building, rooftop to rooftop drone delivery, and how that then frees up space traffic within a densely populated urban environment. You no longer have to have large trucks. You have a freer flow of traffic, or even there's the rise of ride-sharing services as we have a better sense of traffic flow and traffic patterns throughout the city. You could really reimagine urban spaces, add more green space. Really maximize parking, as we already see with some of the parking apps. So, those are the things that get me excited. It's not just the individual products, but how do they work together to tell the larger story that in 10, 15 years we may see society completely transformed by the technology we saw at CES in 2016.
You're mentioning drone deliveries made me think of Amazon. And that made me think of the fact that on our smart home panel, we're going to have somebody from the Amazon Alexa team, the product manager there. This is the first time that Amazon has actually been kind of stepping up and willing to participate in a panel like this, which has gotten us really excited. And they're also going to be, we're going to be talking a lot about voice control. That's something that I'm really interested in. CNET's really interested in. And in fact, our next big thing, Super Session, which is always a packed Super Session at CES, is going to be addressing what we're calling the end of typing.
Right.
And we're going to be talking a lot about the new ways in which we interact with computers and interact with technology, and the way that we speak and gesture instead of just, using a keyboard to input words that are written down.
Right.
I don't know how you feel about that, or if you have any thoughts about that, but I'm super excited about that topic, and I think it's going to be sort of a sleeper hit at CES.
It's good insight. I think you and I talked about that like a year ago at our 5 Text to Watch session, but absolutely. I think if you go back to what I think will be really cool and will be interesting, I agree that different ways we interact with the technology. And think about, again, I keep trying to go bigger picture, like I guess I want to be a visionary of some sort, but I'll keep pretending. But think about for access for the disabled, for the elderly, and how these technologies, these new applications, these new ways that we'll interact and interface with our products sort of expand the accessibility for so many people. It's an amazing thing if you think about those applications. I'm also excited about robotics. It's been fun to see the development of robots over the past couple of years, from sort of, in 10 years or so ago, 8 years or so ago, they were really in the toy area. And now they've become really cool and sophisticated parts of our lives, whether it's the robotic cooker that we had last year that you put in the ingredients, and it had paddles and arms to sort of prepare your meal for you, to more sophisticated robots that actually resemble humans and have human features that, again, can help the disabled and help the elderly. So I think robotics is going to be really cool as well.
Yeah, I seem to remember a robot bartender at some point. That's really useful to people.
If it can make you drinks and then get in your driver's car.
That's right.
It's
party robots. But seriously, are there robotics categories that might surprise people? I mean, we've read a lot about caretaking robots, like you mentioned. We all know about vacuuming robots. Those are great. What are some other kind of interesting uses, or do you think that we'll be seeing some? I know you don't know everything that's going to happen at the show, but some sort of creative exhibitions? I always see good stuff from Intel along these lines.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Intel has to say. I think that's exactly right. I think that their president has talked about the Internet of Things the last couple of years when he's keynoted, and I think they're going to now expand and move into some interesting develops along robotics lines. I think part of it will be, again, sometimes you have innovation that comes in huge leaps. You have the introduction of a tablet, you have the introduction of a smartphone, and sometimes technological innovation comes along in just slow increments that sometimes you don't even notice. And I think that may be one of the things we see in robotics. If you look at some of the robots who were there last year, some of them were still a bit clunky. They clearly were robots. But I think we'll see a sophistication and expanded use as well. I think caretaking is a huge, huge area, both in terms of serious caretaking of the ill, the elderly, as well as just sort of having that personalized butler, which I'm totally psyched for, totally psyched for. Would be great. As well as the toys. We haven't talked about 3D printing, which is going to be huge. And not again just as a home device to create home goods and sort of support the whole maker effort, but the increased use of 3D printing to create prosthetics for humans and animals, to create food, and at lower and lower price points as well.
Absolutely. I mean, 3D. I feel like every year 3D printing is kind of hovering in the background, and every year there's a new 3D printer that prints something else that we've never seen before, right? Like, come see the 3D printer. I think last year, it was either last year or the year before, we saw a printer. I guess not necessarily a 3D printer, but a printer that was printing fingernail designs, right? It was actually a nail polish printer,
Yes.
which, it maybe not the most world-changing printer, but we see printers creating clothing and food, like you mentioned. Any other categories we're not thinking about? Are we going to see any sort of printers that print in biological matter?
I think you'll see some of those, absolutely. There are phenomenal stories coming out. I think we'll see some advances there. I think if you're familiar with Eureka Park. Eureka Park, for those of you who haven't been in the past, is an area at the Sands that focuses on our startup community. We're going to have more than 500 companies this year. It's gone from a couple hundred just a couple years ago to over 500 now that have the latest. They're really small startup companies. And I know a lot of them that, as I've looked through the list, are focused on 3D printing, as well as a wide variety of other services and applications.
That's so cool. What we found when we cover the show is that, there's excitement that goes throughout the entire show. So we always have great preview content that comes from what we cover at CES Unveiled, which is a press event that happens the day before Press Day. And then Press Day, we've got, great wall-to-wall coverage. But then we also get really excited about the smaller companies we find just walking around the show floor and covering in the days that are of the show that are open to all attendees. And I just kind of want to give a shout out for a second to the smaller companies that bring little unexpected things that really for us often end up being the gems. And I'm sure that that's an exciting part of the show for you too, Jeff.
Well, I think that's my favorite part of the show. That you talk about what gets me excited. I'll go and I'm shopping for a 4K UHD TV, so I'll be looking at those while I'm walking the floor. I get excited about the robotics and 3D printers and the driverless cars. But the best part is just the serendipity, right? How cool is it to walk the show floor and stumble upon something and say, "Wow, I had no idea. That is so cool." Or again, to sort of project and see what the future use may be. This story is going to date me, so bear with me. But I remember walking the show floor, gosh, maybe 15 years ago, and wandering around to the back of North Hall and coming across a small company that was selling one of the first sort of USB memory sticks, key fobs. And I remember thinking at the time, like, that is so cool. What a smart idea. And now look, right, they're ubiquitous. They're disposable. So that sort of serendipity, that sort of fun of exciting, that next new cool thing, whether it's something small but totally utilitarian like that, or something really big and revolutionary. That's part of the fun of the show. Is just you never know what you're going to find.
It's so great. I'm really, really looking forward to that part. And I always try to make sure that I carve out some just time on my own at the end of the show, and I'm not busy to just walk the show floor or whatever part of the show floor I can make it to, because it's so big. Jeff, before we wrap up, we just have a few more minutes, but I want to give you a chance to highlight anything else that you are particularly excited about this year, or that you really want anybody who's going to be viewing this from the outside to know.
Yeah. Well, there's so much. So some of the other everything we talked about is awesome, and you can tell I'm excited. I can tell you're excited. I have to give a shout out to 4K UHD TV. We're going to see the next generation of 4K displays at the show that include all these next sort of really cool technological innovations like HDR, high dynamic range, which gives you amazing blacks and contrast, wider color gamut so that Apple on TV looks so good you can eat it. We're going to see some content announcements, maybe even some of the first 4K Blu-ray players, which I think will be really cool. I'm an audiophile. I'm really excited about high resolution audio and continuing to see that evolution and next generation of products there. And then the intersection of technology and healthcare. We've had the fitness bands for a long time, but we're really getting to see sort of a deeper dive into, now that you've collected all that data and that information, how do you make it helpful and beneficial? How do you share that across devices? How do you share that with your medical providers? How can it help improve outcomes? And then the last thing I'll say is sports technology. The intersection of technology and sports content. We're really excited to be partnering with Fox, who's producing a day-long conference on sports technology. We're going to have the commissioner of baseball and some other sports leagues there to talk about how it improves the fan experience, how it improves and allows them to better monitor athletes' health. We'll be having NBA Live broadcasting from the show floor as well. So there's, I can go on and on and on. It is. Go to CES Web, watch CNET, and just get as much as you can.
That's great. And I want to remind everybody that this show actually starts January 6th in Las Vegas, but CNET will be on the ground much, much earlier than that. We will be starting our coverage. In fact, our coverage launches tomorrow, so go to ces.cnet.com if you want to see our coverage. And really tune in early, because we'll be there in the days ahead of the show, getting ready and setting the scene. We'll be there on the ground at Press Day, reporting as only people who are allowed into Press Day can, and we're always super excited about that. And we will be live streaming keynotes. So join us and visit cesweb.org, visit @CES on Twitter, and of course follow CNET. Thank you so much, Jeff, for talking to me. This was really fun to catch up.
Awesome, Lindsey. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for all your great coverage, and I look forward to seeing you in Vegas.
See you soon. Have a great holiday.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.